Olá, amigos. Hoje, nessa tarde de muitos ventos, vocês vão ter a oportunidade de ouvir o vento. Vamos ter aqui a Sua Santidade, o Dalai Lama, nos falando sobre vacuidade. Vacuidade e vazio sempre me lembra a música de Gilberto Gil, onde ele pergunta: o copo vazio está vazio de quê? Está cheio de ar.
É sempre bom lembrar que o copo vazio está cheio de ar. É sempre bom lembrar que o ar sombrio de um rosto está cheio de um ar vazio, vazio daquilo que no ar do copo ocupou lugar.
Um trecho da música para a gente se lembrar e, em seguida, o barulho do vento e nesse dia em que o vale está cheio de vento, que é também ar, igual o copo vazio. O vale também está cheio de ar. O mesmo ar que a borboleta ocupa para fazer o seu voo. Em seguida, o Dalai Lama falando sobre vacuidade. Vamos lá.
시시 녀몽배 샤원도 여버 뜻이도 다와요 말했을 때다 디 뭔지베 타네 녀몽을 기대치 돼야지 다 타거든 여러 간데.
So the true aspiration to seek liberation from suffering or liberation from samsara or to achieve moksha it can only arise from a recognition of the third level of suffering, that is the dukkha of conditioning, where there is a recognition that so long as we remain under the domination and control of ignorance and the delusions, we are subject to suffering. There is no room for lasting joy and happiness. So based on that recognition, then one can truly develop a genuine desire to seek liberation or to seek moksha.
So now is the third noble truth. What is nirvana? What is moksha? Or what is nirodha, cessation? It is something possible or not? Now, that's the key question now. Namding nalaliya ini da namding nali nere si da zo an de medicine yangda di 십계배 중 nalaliya ini 동관이 있을 때야디 중세 고주레스 신도 고주 잘 시작해야 말해. 짜라체 리베 짜라체니 니주를 시작해. 리베 짜라체니 시주를 시작. 도주를 시작해. 그래서 상황이 있는데 통주도 말이지. 니 중세 고주 대전에 리베 보주이 되지.
Here perhaps it is useful to reflect upon a point which Aryadeva makes in his 400 verses on the middle way, where he argues that when we talk about the ultimate nature of reality, the emptiness, we must understand that emptiness is not something, the understanding of which requires reliance on scriptural authority. It is something that we can approach through a critical analysis, through reasoning, and understand it. So emptiness, understanding of emptiness, or can arise from through a process of understanding, through reason. Therefore, in Buddhism, there is an understanding that within the phenomena which are evident to us, obvious to us, of course, we can perceive them directly. There is no need for any logical sort of proof. And then there is a second category of phenomena, which, although may not be obvious to us, but we can infer them through, based on our our own direct perception of something, so we can infer them. These are technically known as the category of the slightly obscure phenomena, but they are not completely obscure because we can infer them, we can approach them through a reasoning process. So emptiness belongs to that category. And since emptiness belongs to that category, which is to say that emptiness could be approached through a reasoning process, that we can infer the truth of the emptiness. Therefore, we must also accept that moksha or liberation is something that can be understood through that process as well. Because as Nagarjuna says that a true understanding of moksha should be based on an understanding of emptiness, because moksha is nothing other than the total elimination or total cessation of delusion and suffering within emptiness, or through the insight of emptiness. So understanding of moksha, the concept of moksha, is very much related with the concept of the Buddhist concept of emptiness. And since emptiness can be approached and understood through inferential process, similarly, moksha should be also should be capable of being understood or approached through the similar rational process. Because of this sort of intimate connection between the Buddhist concept of emptiness and the Buddhist concept of moksha, in Abhisamaya Alamkara, which is a classical text written by Maitreya, when talking about the third noble truth, the truth of cessation or Nirodha, there is an extensive discussion of the 16 types of emptiness, 16 classes of emptiness. So the fact that emptiness is an ultimate, the fact that moksha or liberation is an ultimate truth is something that is very explicitly discussed in Chandrakriti's writing.
So today in the Guangdong Yoda Messiadi, that Dongni
So it seems that whether or not one can accept the possibility of moksha or liberation seems to be dependent on how well we understand the Buddhist concept of emptiness.
나 동반이 있어야 돼. 그래서 말해서 봐이나. 동반이 있어야 돼. 동 있어야 돼. 매력이 싫었다. 지금 동스. 다른 애신이 다 매봐서 뒤에 다 있어야지 매봐. 다가다 매해지는 시험이야.
So when we talk about the Buddhist concept of emptiness, of course it is obvious that we are talking about absence of something. We are talking about a form of negation. Similarly, when we talk about the Buddhist doctrine of anatman, or no soul, no self theory, again we are talking about a form of negation, a form of absence.
이 영과에도 가렸었나? 그냥 안에서 삼는 날이야. 지 가서 그러면 레더로 지게 돼야지리야. 변화식 시나를 지게 돼서 그러리야. 다 된다 말에 대 실라베이나. 다 중심으로 돼 안되직도 한다. 요 말에 사실 좀 더 타져베이나. 아니 시나이네 저이네 이라고 다좀더 심을 받으면 도 하니. 요하면 도.
So why this insistence on this absolute negation? Either it is in the case of no self, anatman doctrine, or in the case of Buddhist doctrine of emptiness. Why this insistence on categorical rejection or categorical negation? Here, let us pause for a while and think about our own experience. For example, if we have a certain fear based on some kind of suspicion that there might be something here, then in order to dispel that fear, if we have the thought that maybe I'm being kind of deceived, maybe I'm being kind of projecting, maybe I'm projecting, then of course, although it will lessen your fear, but it wouldn't completely dispel it. But on the contrary, instead, if you develop the thought that this is pure illusion, there isn't anything here, I'm just imagining. And if your rejection or negation is that categorical, of course it will have an immediate impact on dispelling your fear.
다 워낙 가를 똥벌에 가를 매버지 쓰고서 라베이나 아니 가르쳐 똥았을 그래. 다 이제 가르쳤을다 그 하시면 좋아. 다는 가르쳐 그러지랬나?
So the question is, if that is the case, what is being negated here? What is it empty of? What are we talking about being emptied of? What is being negated here? Of course, the scripture says, it is an absence of the object of negation. We are negating something that is the object of this apprehension. And then it itself is not, not explanatory. So, of course, we have to go further and try to understand what is this, what is the actual object of negation.
No. 다 될이야. 다 남배 슝나로리아. 강사 많이 되게 제일 동에 담이 직시. 대내에 송진 이동 그러나 가서다 송진 이동 담이 직시. 우면 슝고 나로래 론네밀라 숙소기 텐게 랑산 나야직 여세 랑산 달론네밀이야 나야 왕키 아니 봤다.
So here, we can see that the key really lies in our understanding of what is meant by Atman in the context of Anatman. And of course, depending upon one's own philosophical interpretations of this Buddhist doctrine, the Buddha's teaching on Anatman, or there will be differences in the identification of what is being negated here, the Atma in the context of negation. So what we find is in the Buddhist literature, there are varying degrees or varying subtleties in one's identification of this Atman, the object of negation. For example, this one level is where this Atman is identified as substantially real sort of soul that exists within all of us. And so the negation of that substantially real autonomous sort of agent or eternal soul is the meaning of Anatman. So that is one interpretation of the principle of Anatman. Then there is also another interpretation of that doctrine, which is the Chittamantra way of understanding it, where there is an acceptance that there is an understanding that the fundamental ignorance is not so much the belief in this substantially real eternal soul principle, but rather it is an acceptance or a belief in the reality of the physical world. And there is this understanding that the fundamental ignorance is the belief in the duality of mind and matter. And so the object to be negated in the context of Anatman is this belief in this duality of mind and matter. So that is another interpretation of the doctrine of Anatman. Then there is, of course, the Madhyamaka Svatrantika understanding of emptiness, where there is an understanding that although things come into being as a result of causes and conditions, and although sort of much of the status of existence is in some sense dependent on our perception, but still there is sort of some kind of intrinsic reality to the things and events, and that is so. What is being negated here is in some sense the independence of objects from the perception. So the negation of that is the emptiness. But from the point of view of Madhyamaka Prasangika school, even that is not the final meaning of the Buddha's teaching on anatman. From the Madhyamaka Prasangika's view, so long as we have not deconstructed or dismantled this notion of any intrinsicness, a notion of any objectivity, to the status of things and events, and then we are still grasping at things as real and things as objectively existent, things as enjoying some kind of independent status. So what is being negated in the context of the doctrine of emptiness is the intrinsic reality, the intrinsic existence and identity of things and events. And the negation of that is the subtle meaning or the true meaning of the doctrine of emptiness. So we see here, depending on one's own interpretation, philosophical interpretations of the Buddha's teaching on anatman, you have varying or different understanding of what is to be negated.
가소래 디도 창물하기 아니 당진의 뉴트브지 제바도 첩지 랜드하기 아니 가소래 그게 랜드하기 남산 줘야리야 만들지 디시자로 셔.
So what is common to all these four schools which have differing interpretations of the Buddha's teaching on emptiness or anatman, what is common to all of them is to bear in mind that while we are engaged in a task to counteract the force of our grasping at Atman, our grasping at the self, it is also important to ensure that our negation does not defy the reality of the conventional world, the reality of our lived world of experience, that the karmic world and karmic operations are not destroyed by the negation. So there is an understanding that the causality, the world of causality, should not be negated in the process of our understanding emptiness.
동번이 그 단다에 지심이 내가 렌트야지다 동번이 내가 잡아도 첩지 아니 레든 데뷔 땡진 잡을 좀 실례 내가 달라도 렌트야지 다네 가서래 간주의 중에 송샤야지 다 숙치시샤지.
So it seems that in terms of arriving at a philosophical standpoint and a form of sort of analysis that would enable the individual to not only be thorough and complete in one's analysis of negating Atman and arriving at emptiness, but at the same time ensuring that the world of interdependence, the world of dependent origination, the world of karma and the world of pratitya samubhada is not destroyed, but in fact, on the contrary, reaffirmed. It seems that Madhyamaka Prasangika's understanding of the doctrine is perhaps the most successful here.
So that is our Gobuluki, Zawasham, Zondiadi. Tension never Juakan, Tenet Tombani to shares.
Here, it may be useful to reflect on a very important passage from Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise on the middle way, Madhyamaka Mula Karika, where he states that that which is dependently originated, I call that empty.
any ten tabatis. That tension 잡은 중 이 문제도 쳐야지. any 동반이 됐을 때아디 강이 버티 ten tabatis.
And that is in turn dependently designated. So the idea is that whatever is dependently originated is empty in the ultimate sense. And that empty phenomena are dependently designated.
So today you 그 때는 딱 봐. 예수잖아요. 매번 말봐. 때는 다는 열봐. 그 때는 딱 봐. 인사 원이지 뭐 좀 벌써 그런 신이 좀 말했어도 와. 뒤니 우면라면 타니 쓰기도 와.
So the fact that things and events are dependently designated implies that they are not non-existent. They are not mere nothingness. So what we find here is the way in which understanding of pratitya samuppada, dependent origination, and the understanding of emptiness together enables the individual to tread the middle line, middle way, thus avoiding the extremes of absolutism and nihilism.
때는 딱 봐. 세하기 식다가 주고기 거에 나라리야. 때는 슬럽도 때마디. 고용도가. 지르산에 때바 매매 라와 제와디 고용도가. 딱 슬럽도산에 매바 말이 열어봐. 때는 딱 배고는 줘봐. 딱도 열어봐.
So this Madhyamaka expression, dependently designated, has a deep significance because the first part of the expression, dependently, sort of implies that things and events come into being by dependence on other factors, which means that they do not possess independent existence. They do not possess some kind of autonomous, absolute status of existence. They come into being only as a result of dependence upon causes and conditions. So that first part of the expression negates absolutism. So the second part of the expression, which it says designated, implies that they are not mere nothingness. They are not non-existence. They do exist. So that part of the expression ensures that the reality of the phenomenal world is not destroyed.
제가 부터벌리는 나로리야. 뭐니기 좀나 때내다고 지셨어. 때려도 뭐니기 좀이나 때내다고 하는 거야.
So therefore Buddha states in his commentary on Madhyamaka Mula Karika, he states that if things and events exist with independent existential status, that they come into being without dependence on other factors, then why are the designations dependent? Why there is this dependent designation, interrelated designation?
그렇게 해서 나도 physics 나로네 quantum physics 쉐이르잖아요. reality 사디 쉐하고도 가셔야 됐어.
It seems that sort of related to this point, it seems through speaking with various physicists, I was told that in according to the quantum mechanical understanding of the physical world, they are beginning to have problems of in fact postulating this idea of reality. Even reality as a concept is becoming a problem. So what does this, for me, what is it points towards is the difficulty of finding, or it's the problems of finding essences when we searched sort of into the essence of things. However, if we jump to the other extreme and say that this is pure illusion and everything is just mere projections of the mind, then we will be falling into the trap where the Chittamatras fell, which is total mentalism.
So that one, Shiva Bashi Mamachi, the Shiva Bashi solid, Shiva Nangsha Samimba. Any quarter mobile can shower of them. Dan Choga Wank. Do you intend to much son Pala Jog or Tudu round Terra? Then it didn't don't share it.
So now the question is that things do not possess intrinsic realities. Things do not possess objective, independent, existential statuses. Yet at the same time, we are not happy with the conclusion that everything is mere projections of the mind. So the question is, where is the middle way? Where what is the alternative? So here, Madhyamaka say that things and events come into being purely as a result of aggregations of many factors. And it's on the basis of that aggregation of causes and conditions and many factors, then we impute identities upon that aggregation.
So now, no time for meditation. So while you are eating or meditate something about Shunya. Thank you. See you again.
Se inscreva no canal e ative as notificações. Deixe o seu like.